people 110% committed to try and make lap speed around here, that this is a grand moment for racing drivers. You have the track to yourself. The final top 10 shootout. The first man out is right behind us in Shane van Gisbergen in the 888 Mercedes, and the fastest man will run last, and that's Matt Campbell in the Porsche. In between, some international champions and 7 different manufacturers represented. Half a second across those runners. Right now, a tiny bit of cloud cover. It gets no better than this.
It's going to be quick. Let's get into it. We can't wait. Here are our commentators, John Hindhoff, Johnny Palmer and Richard Crail.
Thanks very much, fellas. You've got a great view of what's going on down there. Let's just take you back a couple of hours to where we decided the top 10 shootout. It was a horrendous accident for Martin Kerkhofer. I've spoken to him since. He looks completely unfazed. The 62 Aston Martin in pieces on the top of the mountain. But Martin walked away and he's just ruining his luck after he was helped out by Renger van der Zande.
Yeah, it wasn't the only car to have some dramas in that session. We'll get to those in a minute. The sister car, Jake Dennis in the R Motorsport Aston Martin, brushed the fence but got away with one. This was enormous. The Trofeo Motorsport Lamborghini, Dean Canto behind the wheel, launched skywards and reversed parallel parked very nicely up on the wall there. Still awaiting confirmation. Dean was okay, by the way, of that car's condition and whether it can actually take the start tomorrow. In the end, though, this guy, Matt Campbell, behind the wheel of car 911, was the fastest, and as a result, he gets to go last in the Pirelli shootout here at Mount Panorama.
So here's how they qualified into the Pirelli top 10 shootout with Matty Campbell, one of the winning drivers from last year with the top tag. That means he goes last. And when the red flag came out, Shane van Gisbergen, very, very close, on the bubble in 10th, with a good lap going on as well from Dries van Ter further down the field. He might have just squeezed in, and you give this man a chance, Richard Creel, then you might regret that if you're one of his competitors later on.
Yeah, just worked his way into the top 10 shootout right at the very end and bumped Bentley out. They've been in the shootout more often than not, the British team, so it's strange to not see the big brutes from the UK in here. So we're looking forward to seeing what Shane can do. He's been on pole position for this race before. He holds the Bathurst 12-hour qualifying record. He's got a super cheap auto Bathurst 1000 pole in 2014 to his credit as well. He knows how to get the most out of Mount Panorama when he's got it to himself.
And don't forget, we were talking about laps on the tyres, 3 or 4 laps on the tyres before they reached their optimum in that first qualifying session. They don't have that right now running for them. And we are rolling one out lap and then the lap that will decide your position on the grid for the 2020 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours.
So the venue for such an occasion is an appropriate one, 6.213 kilometres, Mount Panorama, Bathurst. It's an awesome racetrack. We know it, we love it, it's part of the Aussie culture. And when you've got it to yourself, it's just that little bit more special. Nailing the braking into turn 1 will be difficult. You can go very deep with a headwind going into there, but when you get to the top of Mount Panorama, the wind's blowing from the alternate direction. It may affect the handling balance of your race car, because that's been a theme of the day as the cars have gone up through this part of the world at Reed Park to Solomon, the Metal Grate, that infamous, amazing corner, and then to McPhillamy and Skyline, where all the drama has been today. Commitment across the top required in every lap at Mount Panorama, in a shootout more so. Nailing all of this is critical, and the elbow becomes absolutely critical as well, because top line speed, you want to maximise your straight line performance on the run. Down the hill, 1.8 kilometres to the kink, the fastest corner in the sport. Brake well for the chase, finish it up, get the lap done. A good lap time should be somewhere in the low 203s. And if it does, that'll put you on pole for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour.
The first guy out around Mount Panorama Circuit is none other than Shane van Gisbergen, the 2016 Allan Simonsen Trophy winner. He also went on to win the Great Race that year too. He's going to try and get a second pole position, but it's going to take a little bit of work, because until about 10 minutes ago, the Mercedes was still in pieces. A complete floor change has now been completed, and now Shane out, just he, the mountain, and a Mercedes.
And the stopwatch. The most difficult competitor of all is time. And Fast February starts right now. First day of the month, and it's time to get everything out of the performance draws in the back of the garage, bolted on, slap the driver around a bit, say bad things about his family, and kick him out there and tell him he's got one lap to do. The tiny steering wheel on the AMG GT3 looks like something that should be on a kiddie's pedal car. There's a lot of power underneath the bonnet, the long snout of that AMG, and it's controlled from that little bow tie of a steering wheel. Down towards Hellscorn Furnace for the first time. SVG then hits his braking point, takes it to the apex and lets it roll out over the red and white curbs. Now just takes another little breather as he gets onto Audi Mountain Straight.
Here the understeer at turn one, the front tyres scrubbling for grip. They still won't be up to maximum temperature. They probably won't get there till halfway through the lap, and the car will switch itself on across the top of Mount Panorama. So 3 timing intermediates at Mount Panorama. We'll tell you the splits. There's one on the run up to Reed Park, the other on the exit of the elbow. That's our judge. That's the benchmark to see who is where. Shane right now, though, is the pioneer.
Through the Audi cutting, and Johnny Palmer, this is the danger area. The action has been from this part of the circuit up towards Skyline. And this is basically, he's the pace setter. He's the pathfinder right now. We don't even know what the circuit is.
This is the first of 3 Mercedes we're going to see in the session, by the way. They're the most dominant in the top 10. Rafael Marciello and Maro Engel still to come. But let's see what SVG can do. Again, the front of that Mercedes scraping on the ground. Now at the spare box dipper and out towards the elbow. But it's foot to the floor here. And now this crucial corner, which determines the top speed into the chase.
Doesn't have to worry about anybody coming down the inside there, so he takes a much more traditional line, sweeping in from the right-hand side, down onto Conrod Straight. We've got nothing to compare it against. 51 seconds in the first sector, 32 seconds in the third, as he comes down to the flat-out right-hander at the chase.
It's going to be a decent lap, somewhere in the mid-3s you'd expect on those sector times. Stops, turns, nicely done. Neat and tidy with a big, I say that, with a big grab of oversteer on the exit of the chase. And now just to get this final part right, deceptively tricky downhill braking. There's the apex. You're on the throttle so early in a GT3 car. Use the road on the exit. Well, it's a 204.35. Gave away some time in the last sector. But again, right now, that's pole position. We don't know what everyone else has got.
And that is a very good point. Just one warm-up lap and one shot at it. We've now got something to aim at. 204.356. That is the first gambit laid down by SVG.
Maxi, that was a great lap by Shane van Gisbergen, your teammate. What did you think?
Absolutely, this was a clear lap so far, and it's never easy to put the first lap on the screens. But I think he performed well and looks promising, the lap time. If you compare these lap times to the last qualifying section, I think we are competitive.
Sounds like you're very lucky to have the car out there at all.
Yeah, true. We had some issues with the anti-roll bar in the qualifying section, so he could do a run only once in the qualifying session. So we are just qualified in top 10. So we were lucky, and now we will see where we end up.
Perfect. Well, the rest of the cars are heading out. All the best.
Okay, thank you, guys.
We go from 888 to Triple F, and it's the sole Lamborghini that'll be rolling out in this shootout. It's in the hands of 32-year-old Italian Marco Mappelli, and this team's been something of a surprise packet today. They topped the early morning practice session. They sat out most of the Pirelli qualifying session earlier today. They wanted to make sure they had the exact amount of fuel that was right for that second qualifying session. It's been a really well-balanced car so far this weekend.
So Marco Mappelli then has to take a deep breath. He's done all the visualising, he's warmed up the Pirellis, and now it's him and the mountain and a Lamborghini down towards turn 1. Gets that front end turned in. That looked a little bit more direct than what we saw from SVG in the AMG a moment or two ago. Looks like the Lambo is on the nose a little bit there, which drivers like during qualifying in particular. They want to feel that car rotating and turning into the corners.
Just for comparison, Shane did a 204.3 to get into the shootout. It was a 3.9, so he's only given away 4 and a bit tenths of a second on his one lap dash compared to a quali run to get himself into it. So that makes that lap time for car 888 look even better. Not far away from a first sector time though for the young Italian, very close to the wall on the exit. The car tried to swap ends on the braking zone into the final corner as he was about to start the lap as well. So he's driving it very, very hard. He's given away 3/10 in the first split.
Interesting they've gone with Mapelli for me. I thought it was a toss-up between Marco and Andrea Caldarelli, who had a ding-dong fight at Daytona last weekend in their GT Daytona Lamborghini Huracans. That classic scream of the V10, though, as it reaches the top of the mountain. Looking possibly a little bit more nimble over the top of the mountain compared to the Mercedes last time.
A lot of curb across the top on the run through the S's as well, which unsettled the car, but it seemed to deal with it okay. Lamborghini have never been on pole for this race. He's pulled some margin back across the top as well, which is where this car will be very strong. So he's right in the mix. Lamborghini have qualified second here before. David Russell, a superb job in Roger Lago's car in 2015. Can the young Italian get them on the front row again?
So does the characteristic of the Lamborghini then give him an advantage into the very fast and then medium corners at the end of the lap? He did very well over the twisties on the top of the mountain, just kicking up a little bit of dirt from the right-hand side Pirellis as he exits the chase down under the Liqui-Moly bridge and into Liqui-Moly Murray's corner, the final left-hander across the line. Checkered flag is out and he stops the clock. I tell you what, he pulled a lot back there. He did a very good job in the second 2/3 of that lap, but he still finishes just a 1/10.5 behind Shane van Gisbergen, who continues to be provisionally on pole position.
Andrea Caldarelli, team owner and driver. Nerve-wracking watching that lap?
Yeah, really a lot of pressure for Marco. You know, he was on all the camera, but he know what to do. We were a little bit slow on the first sector, but then we were quite good, sector 2 and sector 3. But the race is long, so we'll see tomorrow.
The important part was getting into the top 10. And it's funny that you were watching the screen and couldn't take your eyes away because Dennis Lind was sitting on a ladder and couldn't watch.
Oh no, I trust Marco. I really like to watch him driving, actually. I really believe he's one of the best guys out there, so I really enjoy to watch his lap.
Good luck tomorrow, Andrea.
Thank you.
Andrea Caldarelli did a cracking job in the Lamborghini for Paul Miller Racing last weekend and comes away with a Daytona, Rolex Daytona. Watch for his troubles. Right, we got another car on the mountain. It's another manufacturer, and this is the young man who absolutely lit up the mountain last year. Jake Dennis, maybe with something to prove. We'll find out in a couple of minutes' time.
Yes, it is Jake Dennis that's in the car right now behind the Aston Martin wheel, and Rick Kelly is watching on nervously, but said the car is actually quite good here. So they just want to know what the track's like with the heat and how he's going to go, but the boys are pumped. Looking a little nervous.
Just a tad. Rick's been in this situation many a time in his career, so he probably won't mind spectating, I would have thought. Let someone else do all the hard work. Just on those track conditions that Charlie touched on. Ambient currently the highest it's been all day, 38.8 degrees at the moment. The track temperature's dropped though. A little bit of cloud cover just before the start of the session means it's 45.7 degree track temperatures, thanks to Pirelli for the numbers. So it's very, very hot track, a little bit better than it was earlier today though. So that will be a balancing act between the ambient temperature and the track temp.
Got to be somewhere near 51 seconds for the first sector here on the mountain. Jake Dennis pushes the front end of the Aston into turn 2. And heading up now towards the Audi cutting. This is where the world closes in around you. Really want more room than the mountain is going to give you, and it's all uphill. You daren't lift off the throttle because you know that gravity isn't your friend right here.
Pole position last year. This is a very different car though, turbocharged 4-litre V8 in the Aston. Just a little feather of the throttle. He struck the wall there earlier on today, so needed to be cautious across the top. I'm sure he's not shaving too much time from this lap though, and now heading down towards the spare box dipper again. Big old clatter there as the car finds the ground once more.
He's got a 1/10.5 to find, Creelsey, in the last third of the lap or so. Right in towards the wall. Remember, he gave up the lead with a couple of laps to go there, but he didn't have to worry as he did last year about a Porsche coming up the inside.
Messy the way the car landed going down through the S's to the dipper, wasn't it? It was unsettling. remember, was on pole last year for about 3 hours, but had it taken away from them. They had an RPM breach in that car and they were disqualified from the top 10 shootout. So there's an element of revenge here, perhaps, for this young British driver who burst onto the scene. He led the race right up until the final 15 minutes. He proved his star power, and his shootout lap last year was breathtaking. This one's been solid. Stopped in the final corner. Will it be pole position or at least provisional pole? I don't think so. No, it's third. It's 2:04.75. He's 0.39 off the benchmark, and car 888 moves up from 10th. It went to 9th. It's now 8th. Continues its march up the grid.
Yeah, could be no worse than 8th is what Crailsey is saying at the moment. So Shane van Gisbergen, having taken his chance, got in right at the very end of the qualifying session, and the red flag came with a couple of minutes to go when Dries van Toor was on a quick lap. And you don't have to give Shane van Gisbergen any second chances. He'll say thank you very much and he'll make you pay.
Scott Dixon, you came here as a kid to check out the 1000. You must have seen a shootout then. What's it like to be sitting here in the bunker watching it all unfold in front of you?
I think Rick and I were just talking about how it's a lot more comfortable sitting here and watching it. But no, we're nervous. We're nervous for Jake. You know, it was definitely tough conditions. This afternoon we saw a lot of crashes, and we just want to get to the start of the race. You know, obviously it's a long race, and, you know, we're going to be in the top 10 here, and hopefully we're going to have a clean one tomorrow and try and fight towards the end. But Jake's done an amazing job, man. He's a huge talent, and he's been impressive to learn off for sure.
Yeah, he's pretty committed. We saw him whip through Silman Park on the curbs, and also maybe just a little wiggle down through Skyline.
Yeah, it did, you know, and that's one of the tricky parts with this car. You know, as soon as you kind of load the car and then also add some brake, it gets very, very loose. So, you know, he's done an amazing job, and, you know, we're starting the race. That's the main thing.
Thanks, Scott.
Cheers, man.
All of Nissan and KCMG's hopes right now are out on the racetrack in the hands of JP de Oliveira, the Brazilian driver who was the Formula Nippon champion in 2010, given qualifying duties in his first ever trip to the mountain. Why are they the only hope? Because the sister car, the Chiyo-san car, the Sugio Matsuda and Josh Burden car, still sitting in the garage, will not take any more laps this weekend after a crash in yesterday's first practice session. So let's see what JP can do.
Thanks, Shay. And this team were in the top 10 shootout last year. It was Alex Imperatori doing the business, qualified 9th 12 months ago with a pretty solid lap. Nissan have been 3rd on the mountain before in qualifying. That was the year they won the race in 2015 when the aforementioned Chiyo-san blazed towards the front of the field at the very end. So yet to qualify on pole in the GT era of the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour.
Interesting looking at the splits of the cars that have gone, Crailsey. Shane van Gisbergen was quickest in the first sector, but then it was Mapelli in the second too. But the almost 4/10 advantage that Shane had over Mapelli is what puts him on top of the pile at the moment.
It was a very good first sector from Shane, but that is the strength of the AMG, that bottom end grunt from the more than 6-litre thundering AMG V8 that's mounted out in front of that long bonnet. But the Nissan's strong across the top as well, and it's strong going up the hill because he's 4/10 of a second faster than Shane van Gisbergen. Brilliant first sector for JP de Oliveira. If he can complete the lap, it's in the 3s. What a very, very good first sector.
The earlier sessions in the week, though, did seem to favour JP. He's been really strong in that Nissan, and I think it's got a good engine for pulling you up Mountain Straight. That turbocharged 3.8 V6. I love the fact that we've got all these different configurations, all fighting for the same goal. And out to the elbow he goes. This is all about how well your car travels through the air down Conrod Straight.
And that is a big bluff front end. Much like the Bentley, it has to move a lot of air on that Nissan, but we've seen in the past, Crailsey, haven't we, just how these cars can carry the speed through the corners, and that's what he needs to do now. Nail the braking point, nail the turning point at the end of the chase, over that tricky transition where the crown of the road wants to flick you off to one side or the other.
So down the hill, this has been a great lap. It was 3/10 up at the middle split, lost a little bit across the top, but didn't give away much time to those that have run before. It's in the 3s, and it's just in the 3s. It's a 3.94, but it's good enough to be quick enough by 0.4 of a second. It's a big margin, first to second now, with Van Gisbergen finally topped. Great lap, JP. Nissan on top, 4 cars have run so far.
That was fantastic, Alex. You must be so proud of your teammate JP out there topping the board.
Yeah, he did a great job. They have a solid car, and now he's done the job. So the moment we're in P1, let's see, there's still a lot of strong cars coming up. Nothing's done yet.
Absolutely, but it's always good to see purple. You came 7th last year yourself, so let's do 6 better.
Yeah, exactly. That's the target. I mean, tomorrow is when it really counts. I think we're prepared for tomorrow, and let's keep our finger crossed.
All the best.
Thank you.
Next up, and about to attempt a lap here at the mountain, it's time for Audi to take centre stage, and it's going to be Kelvin van der Linde at the wheel, the South African hotshot. Having a chat to the boys behind me, I asked, has been told to go flat out? The answer is definitely a yes from Troy Russell, who says everyone wants to win the shootout. The point I want to make here is everyone talks about how young Matt Campbell is, 24 years of age. Kelvin van der Linde is younger, he's 23.
Very interesting again, looking at the split times for JP. Eclipsed Shane van Gisbergen in the first sector by about 4/10. Wasn't quite as quick as either of the other two cars who'd been at the sharp end in sector 2, but then did a cracking third sector at 41.1 to make sure he was 4/10 ahead. Here's Kelvin van der Linde then in the 222. Got to get a good run out of Maguire's Liqui-Moly, excuse me, Murray's. And oh, he lost the back end at Hell Corner. Now, how much time's that going to cost him? That's got to be a 10th or 2 right there, Creelty.
Yeah, it'll cost him momentum going up the hill for this South African champion who started in one make racing and has turned into one of Audi's very best factory GT pilots and floats around the world racing GT3 cars for the brand. Traditionally, the Audi makes all its time across the top, so don't expect an overly special first sector. If it makes up time, it'll be in the middle, very wide on the exit of Visit New South Wales Griffin's Bend and up to the Audi Sport Cutting. This should be home territory for the R8 LMS. Audi have been on pole here 3 times. It's equal to the record held by Mercedes-AMG and Mitsubishi back in the production car days. Can they break the stranglehold and get a 4th? Not on this lap. He's done 6/10, dropped 6/10 in the first sector.
The dangerous thing now is that the car's just not looked happy in the hands of Chris Mees and Fred Verviche. They've had moments in individual cars at McPhillamy. Have they reined things back a touch just to be within or more within the envelope during this session? Get it home, get a time, and hope you may be on the front 3 rows. This Audi, not ideal in terms of setup. Now heading out off the Forest Elbow then.
Check out the time he's pulled back. He's only 0.02 back. He's found almost 6/10 of a second across the top of Mount Panorama. A mighty middle sector for Kelvin van der Linde.
And that's 7/10 faster in the centre section than JP Oliveira, whose time he is chasing. He's got to do somewhere in the region of 41 seconds in the third sector, and I'm not sure that the Audi has got that performance in it. I'll stand to be corrected. He's only got 1 more corner to go through the final left-hander. 23 corners completed, the dash to the line. Does he go to the top? He does not, and he loses 3/10 again in that final sector. So ruling the roost at the top of the mountain is Audi, but can't pull up Mountain Straight and get the run down Conrod.
It was that moment at turn 1 that you picked out when he turned the car in. It understeered and then had a twitch on the rear end, and it cost him all the momentum in the world going up the hill.
Marcus Winkelhock, it was hard for every one of the Audi Sport crew members to watch that lap because Kelvin was pushing so hard. You guys were all getting a bit nervous watching him.
Absolutely, especially after all the accidents we have seen before. And I spoke with him before and he said, I go for it. He said, I want to be on pole. But I think we can be happy in the moment. P2 currently, I think is until now a really good result. And at the end, we made it in the top 10, which was important for us. And it's a very long race. So tomorrow is the day to perform.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Lawrence Van Hoppe is the one that is lucky enough to get behind the GT3 Porsche. It looked very good going out there just onto the mountain now. You know, with Earl Bounder sitting back and Craig Lowndes, who is a lot of people's king of the mountain, has to sit back and watch this one. So let's enjoy.
Lawrence Vanter is the qualifying expert in the BAM Thor Brotherhood. took every single qualifying session in last year's IMSA Championship, which he and Earl Bamber won. It was a deliberate tactic, and it paid off for them. When the championship win for them as drivers and Porsche as the manufacturers, they've continued with that in the States this year, even in the longer 24-hour race that we had last weekend at Daytona International Speedway. So Larry is out there. He likes the car, very edgy. We've seen the Porsches looking pretty good, to be honest, over the last couple of days. So this one, Krilsey, I'm not sure what we're going to see here, if I'm honest, and how much Larry can wring out of this car.
I'd suggest it'll be a lot. Former pole sitter at this venue, was one of the first drivers into the 202s at Mount Panorama before the track surface was relaid in 2016. Great pole lap of 202.5 in 2015 when he was a factory Audi driver. Now he's performing the same role for Porsche and doing it well. And here's a stat. Porsche have never been on pole here. They broke through for a maiden victory last year, yet to be on P1, yet to qualify in the front row for this race. So this is a big lap for Laurens Vanthoor.
Car was so skittish there. You heard the engine notes on the flat six rise as it crested the top of the hill on Audi Mountain Straight, now in towards the cutting.
Yep, so first of a couple of Porsches in the shootout. You've got to think Matty Campbell for Absolute Racing will be the final driver out, but let's concentrate on this, the sixth car in the session. Looks pretty stable at the moment, certainly got a good exit out of Hell Corner, and the haul up the hill was pretty fine. And now I reckon this Porsche's as good, obviously slightly slower than the Audi, but I think he's going to pull a fair bit of time back here across the top of the mountain.
Only 3/10 down, Krilsey, and I say only 3/10. I think that might be doable. I think there's a chance here for Laurens Vanthoor because this Porsche is very good in the second half of the lap.
Yeah, going up the hill isn't the Porsche's strong suit. Coming down certainly is. So gave away a few tenths in that first sector on the run up to Reed Park. There's the Maguire's elbow. Check the time, and he's up. It's fractional, but he is in front currently of JP de Oliveira. So it's all down to this run to Conrod Straight. Porsche very good under brakes and very good turning into a corner with that pointy front end. So wait for it down here at the chase. This will be absolutely critical.
Got to be completely committed, and is how far does he go into the braking area? Answer all the way in, does get it turned in. Fantastic stuff from Vanthoor. Scroll back 12 months to the previous version of this car. Was given a farewell checkered flag and a win here on the mountain. Will it be the first pole position ever for Porsche? Comes across the line, and he goes to second by the smallest of margins, half a tenth. But he's on the front row provisionally as it stands now, and still at the moment Porsche are not in a pole position spot, but they do have another bullet in the gun.
Just didn't quite have the firepower coming down the hill of the Nissan GT-R. He gave away half a tenth in that final sector. The final margin point, 0.42 of a second first to second.
Well, the Aussies are so used to seeing these shootouts, so to see a European driver, Craig, get in there and rag it like that, that's pretty impressive.
Well, it is. I think that's it's part of the whole entertainment of what obviously the Bathurst is all about, to have the track to yourself for one lap and to see what, we call him Larry. What Larry's been able to do has been sensational.
One of your drivers last year, Matt Campbell, still to come, but that's going to be roughly towards the front still.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to see for us. It's great to be back in the top 10 shootout. That's what all the teams aim for. And, Laurens does always normally the qualies for us in America, so we thought, why not throw him in a shootout, and did a big lap there. But, it's great for the team. It's great to be back here and have Craig with us. So now we're going to try survive 12 hours tomorrow.
Yeah, big day tomorrow. Well done.
Cheers.
Twice Raffaele Marciello has raced at Mount Panorama. Twice he's finished on the podium. A second and a third. He's still looking for that first win. And every time we see him behind the wheel of a Mercedes, there are purple sector times next to his name, meaning he's the fastest guy across the mountain. Except for in qualifying, he doesn't yet have that top shootout honor. Can he go get it? Well, he's out on track right now, and he's willing to prove to us that he can.
Well, we've seen, haven't we, that the first sector is the strong point for the AMG. Vanthoor, by the way, that number one car, in the second without taking a fastest sector. He was so close all the way through. Here comes Raffaele Marciello. Got to get the braking right for turn one. Gets it a little bit squirrely, but the big AMG GT3 does turn in, and now just stretch that elastic band of torque.
Might not have won the shootout on track last year, but did actually start from pole position because the Jake Dennis Aston Martin was disqualified. So car 999, Group M Racing, were elevated to the top spot and won the Allan Simonsen pole award. But I can guarantee you that this feisty young Italian driver will very much want to do the time that gets you pole rather than have it handed to you later on by the stewards. The first sector will be telling to see if he's on track to do that. The margins at the moment, absolutely tiny. 0.04 first to second. What's the first split like for Rafa? Well, it's 3/10 down, but we've already seen so far today, first sector certainly isn't the be-all and end-all of a potential pole lap here at Bathurst.
Through the metal grate he goes, now towards the Pertec part of the track, the Pertec skyline, and then the earth just drops beneath you. Got great grunt from that 6.2 V8 though. And bear in mind, these Mercedes, all in the shootout, are the 2020 spec car as well. First time we've ever seen brand new GT3 cars run at the Bathurst 12 Hour. And the run downhill from Shane van Gisbergen earlier on was impressive. He's up through the second sector. It might only be 0.05 of a second, but that's all it takes.
He's got to do something in the region of 41.1 seconds in this final sector to challenge the provisional pole. That's 203.9403, and I'm going to 4 decimal places there because it could be crucial now. 2 more corners to go as he heads down under the Liqui-Moly bridge and down towards us here on the start-finish line. Comes from all the way across on the right-hand side of the road, almost kissing the dirt there with the right hand. Pirelli as he comes through and stops the clock on a 3.821, a 10th, and it's back to the top for the 3-pointed star, and the 999 is on provisional pole.
Really good lap. Final sector was super impressive. Found a 10th and a bit over JP de Oliveira, and that was the difference. So the commitment across the top, that's where he pulled back the time. It was basically square by the time they got to the final sector. So really impressive across the top in what is not generally the strong suit for the big Mercedes-AMG GT3.
I think he was really hanging it out on the top, loving the way these cars make their lap times in different ways. So Mercedes ahead of the Nissan, ahead of the Porsche, ahead of the Audi. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4.
A massive cheer just went up down here in the 59 Racing garage because Alvaro Perez has just popped up on the timing screen. It's time for McLaren to take centre stage, and the first time we've seen this beautiful 720S here at Mount Panorama. He is a former 12-hour winner, and a couple weeks ago he became a parent, so he's now Alvaro Parent.
All right then. This McLaren looks like it should be fastened to a hard point on some kind of military aircraft. It is a weapon. Phenomenal looking thing. Almost looks like we're filming it in standard and then stretching it across to 16.9, like somebody squashed it down. It is so purposeful and just sits so close to the ground.
Sounds pretty impressive too. Twin turbo V8 power for McLaren. The 650S was a very good car at Mount Panorama, always fast. And Shane van Gisbergen still holds the qualifying lap record in that car from 2016. Won't see record times today, but there's certainly a chance that Alvaro can get this car on the top spot. He's been neat and tidy. This is a team that's crept up on it all weekend. Didn't get any headlines yesterday. They went about their business tuning their racing cars and making them fast and making them reliable and consistent over a distance. They got that right. Today they went after speed, and from practice 5 this morning they found some, and that's continued on throughout qualifying 1 and 2 into the shootout. Let's see what they can do on one special lap.
Yeah, just trying to work out where the strengths are or whether they've made this McLaren good all the way around the lap. It could be that we sort of see no blitzing times through either of the 3 sectors, but when you add them all together, it could be good enough. This is the long sector, remember, now through BP Ultimate Reed Park. A little bit of curve there on the exit, but not too much. And keeping it again within the envelope. The walls are close, not too close.
And he's up. He's up on the time at the moment. The best time in the first sector was a 50.628. Raffaele Marciello, that wasn't his time, that was Oliveira's. He's got a 50.945. So there's time to play with here in terms of the McLaren, and Alvaro Parent down towards the Maguire's elbow. And now, does he get a clean exit onto Conrod? You bet he does. He's lost a couple of tenths here, Grilsey. Has the McLaren got enough to make it up?
It should have a slight straight line speed. Well, not an advantage, but it will be strong down Conrod Straight. Often the best laps in a shootout are the most undramatic, and this has been an undramatic lap. Neat, tidy, pinpoint accurate, and very, very fast. Right now, on -2 tenths, he slots into 4th place, but let's see if he can pull a little bit of time back. It should be very good with all the downforce this car's got under brakes for the chase and indeed the final corner. Grupper M watching on, top right corner, 59 Racing, bottom right. There's the lap, there's the time, it's good. It's very good by the smallest of margins, 0.04. We've got a new pace setter, and it's Alvaro Parent. Very, very nice.
Tom Blomqvist, that was your first experience watching a top 10 shootout, being a part of it, and your car goes to the top of the charts. Pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually glad I'm not doing it now because, mate, he's been really on it. I must admit. I mean, yeah, we couldn't trust anyone else to get the job done, but he's, you know, I mean, it's not over yet. You know, there's still a couple of really quick cars to come, but I mean, yeah, you know, we're really happy with that. We made so much progress over the weekend. I mean, all these boys here, you know, it's all been put together, you know, quite late to get us out here on the grid. And, you know, the car's been working really well. And, you know, Ben, Alvaro and myself, you know, we're just, you know, we're having a great time, but, you know, we're looking competitive as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those races that I've really wanted to do for some time. Yeah, so it's one of those bucket list events that I've been able to tick off. So, you know, fingers crossed that we can, you know, see where we end up now. But, you know, most importantly, tomorrow's when it counts. So we'll see.
Let's hope it sticks.
Of course you'd put Mauro Engo behind the wheel for the 77 in the Mercedes. Mauro has so much experience here at the mountain, but he also has a bit of bad luck in the past. So he's really hoping to change that this year. They had a right suspension failure only a day ago, but the boys are saying that the car feels great and they actually hope for rain tomorrow because it keeps it interesting. So let's see how they qualify.
2 points from that Alvaro Parent lap there, gentlemen. 266 kph is the fastest speed and was 4k quicker than Marciello in second position. Second quickest, interesting, was the Aston Martin of Jake Dennis. And a quick calculation on the back of a piece of paper, there is a 202.8 or 9 out there if you add the best 3 sectors together. Now, that doesn't always happen, of course, because all of these cars have different strengths and weaknesses.
Be a very good lap in these conditions to do a 2.8, I'll tell you, but maybe Mauro Engel can do it. This is a guy that's been on pole here before. He won the inaugural Allan Simonsen pole trophy in 2014 as an Erebus driver. He started second last year driving for AMG Mercedes. He did a 203.5361 to get into the shootout in very difficult conditions early on today. It was a very, very good lap. This is a guy with a lot of Bathurst experience. He's been here in GT3 cars and in supercars. He knows the place well. He's the perfect one to put in the car. It's a pretty rugged little moment up there at Reed Park, but the first sector is pretty good.
Only about a 10th down, and that's impressive considering the Mercedes has been pretty good up the hill. It's all about now whether it can maintain the pace over the top, and heading for the dipper. We're not quite getting the scraping that we were getting from SVG's car earlier on. You could tell that from on board, so maybe slightly higher ride height or suspension settings. And the power put in nice and early as it heads through Maguire's elbow.
And he's still up.
Yes.
By 4/1000ths of a second. We're not used to seeing 4 places after the decimal point. This could be that close. We've been seeing it all weekend, and still cars to come in the Pirelli Top 10 shootout. Down to the chase for Mauro Engel. Gets it turned in nicely. Neat and tidy is normally quick, Crailsey, and he's in with a shout here. He's in with a very good shout indeed.
This effort emerging of 2 great teams in Craft Bamboo and Black Falcon, and 3 very good drivers, but it's the German Mauro Engel who's done the job so far. What's the final result? It's only 5th, 204.07. Gave away some time in the final sector. It's only 3 tenths away from pole position. What it does, though, is lock the McLaren onto the front row of the grid. So now cannot be worse than second, thanks to that mighty effort for Alvaro Parent. So 59 Racing, Tom Blomqvist and Ben Barnicoat, the other drivers, locked into a front row spot.
Well, Luca watching on nervously with the team. It was looking pretty good to 2 sectors, but unfortunately couldn't quite piece that last sector. Did you notice anything in that final sector?
No, because I just saw the onboard basically, so I just saw his steering wheel. He had a tiny little bit of oversteer, but yeah, other than that, the car was great. Yeah, it was like on rails over the mountain, so yeah, we feel really comfortable and really comfy for the race.
Maro, he's an amazing driver around here, lots of experience. Any plan as to who might be starting the car tomorrow yet?
I think that is the plan, to have me as a starter, and then Jelmer jumps in next, and then we see.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day either way. Good luck.
Thanks.
364 days ago, a legend was born, and a young man became a driver that everyone looked up to. That man was Matt Campbell when he made a pass over the top of the mountain that then went on to secure him an overall victory here. Well, now he has an opportunity to etch his name on a different trophy, the Allan Simonsen trophy, for a pole position, potentially the first pole position here at Bathurst for Porsche. He does have to take down the might of that McLaren, but right now there's one car on track, one man, and it's the one that we've all been talking about for the last year.
An extraordinary variety of cars already at the sharp end of this Pirelli Top 10 shootout. Alvaro Parent for McLaren leads the 999 Mercedes-AMG GT3 of Rafael Marchiello from JP de Oliveira in the Nissan number 18 from Lawrence Vanto in the number 1 defending Earl Bamber Motorsport Porsche. That's your top 4, and they're separated by 0.2 of a second. One man, one lap, and the 911, the new 911 GT3 car, Matty Campbell, over to you.
Right, here we go. 2:03.43 was the lap he produced in qualifying to get into the shootout. Was 0.2 faster than anyone went in that session. It was a very, very nice lap time. And this car's looked very consistent all weekend. It does what Porsches do very well here, which is just generally be good everywhere. They don't have one area where they excel. And traditionally at this place, the Porsches just string together 3 sectors. We saw it with Lawrence Vancourt early on in car number 1.
I reckon if he can match Alvaro Parent in the first sector, he's then got to pull something out in the 3rd sector, because I do think they're fairly similar in the middle, JP.
Yeah, and another good measuring stick is Laurent.
Matched it. He's gone 0.3 quicker. This is a real potential pull for Porsche, which we've not seen here before. That's an extraordinary run. Now he's got to keep that gap, because we know how fast the Parent McLaren was in the 3rd sector running back to the flag.
Crucially, he's 0.4 of a second quicker than Vantor in the same machinery. Surely he's got this already, but they've got a few more K's to go yet, and heading down the hill into the dipper. What's the exit like? Nice and close to the wall, as he was for that overtake a year ago. He's 0.7 of a second up. Give him the trophy now.
He's in a different ballpark, Matt Campbell. It's a completely different race. He's 0.7 of a second faster than one of the best fields we've seen here. The conditions might not be the fastest they've been, but this is one unbelievable lap so far. Just a few corners to go to lock Porsche into their first pole position. Tick the box for the chase. That's done. Nice work. One more turn. One more corner for Porsche to get their first pole position at Mount Panorama. The Allan Simonsen Pole Award's going to Matt Campbell. The fairy tale continues for this young man at Mount Panorama to 2:03.5. It's the best lap. It's pole for Porsche. What a shootout for car 911.
Best first sector, 50.5. Very competitive across the middle, 31.7 and 41.2. Lost half a second to the very quick McLaren coming down the hill, and that might mean something in race trim. The McLaren quick in time and in pace there, 4Ks quicker. And as we saw from Cheersan a few years ago, being able to get down the mountain quickly is a real advantage in race conditions. But take nothing away from absolute racing from Matty Campbell and from Porsche. They're on pole position for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours 2020.
Safe to say we have the happiest teammate in all up and down pit lane. Congratulations, how good's Matty?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I will say thank you to him because, yeah, just watching, but yeah, what an incredible lap. I mean, incredible first sector, great second sector. good last sector. So yeah, I mean the team did an amazing job with the car, and he just performed at his best level. So hats off to him and to the team for the job today. And it's always great to start on pole.
And the first one for Porsche, so wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. It's the first race of the car here, so to start on pole and to show the potential of the world of this new car is great.
Justifiably, you're so happy. Go and enjoy.
Thank you.
Well, what scenes down at Porsche. So this is the lap that did it, and it was all the first and second sectors for this remarkable 24-year-old from Warwick in country Queensland. The family and a lot of the supporters that have funded his early racing career are here. His old team boss is in the garage next door, helping out at Elbamba Motorsport, Andy McElrea. A beautiful lap, a lot of commitment on the exit of turn 1, Johnny Palmer. And it's a straight shot up the hill. Just extraordinary first and second sectors, though.
Not afraid to ride the curb coming out of Hell Corner, so clearly the car stabilises well and got good ground clearance too, which you kind of need around this place. Braking nice and late into Griffin's Bend as well. Floors the throttle, the ABS, or rather the traction control sorts that out a little bit for you, and then into the Audi cutting. But once again, this is the sort of area on the track where this car excels.
Looking forward to seeing this next sector now. So sector 2, this is the first timing intermediate, which was the fastest of the entire session, but he found an enormous chunk of time in the overall lap across here. Let's just have a listen to this. Oh man, just the slightest of lift at McPhillamy and then hard back on the throttle for a 220 km/h corner. There's the dipper, hard on the throttle mid-corner there, no problems with traction. Porsche 4-litre flat 6 hanging out over the rear axle. Waited a little bit for the throttle there on the exit of the elbow. And at that point, he would have seen on his dash a split time that would have given him a wry little grin on his face. This is probably the weakest point for the Porsche. It doesn't have the raw straight line speed of all the cars. Its all-round ability is very, very good. But it just gave away a few tenths here and perhaps a little bit of conservatism, Johnny, in the final sector.
262 clicks through the track. That wasn't as fast as JP de Oliveira, but nevertheless, when you hook all the laps together, I just wonder whether this run out of Liqui-Moly corner wasn't the tidiest, but he is the picture of concentration, gets it stopped very late indeed, kicked up the dust, and that's where he lost half a second through the final sector, but it wasn't too much time to not get pole, and there he is, getting a ride back on a rather bit of slower piece of machinery.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to come back and greet your team, isn't it? What a sensational effort. So the final time, 2:03.55, which is a tenth slower than the time he got to get into the shootout to qualify fastest earlier. So to replicate that, which you've got a full 30-minute session to build up to, in one magic lap is just outstanding. So Porsche on pole, McLaren second. That's another big story, isn't it? Huge lap from Alvaro Parent.
Yeah, and that is testament, I think, to how well the McLaren travels through the air. But look at the grin. Not quite as wide as it was last year when he took race victory, but that's part of the job done. And as you say, if we're going to carry on the statistic of a winner from any of the top 7 positions, well, he's in the prime one for tomorrow morning at 5:45 a.m.
Yeah, the race has been won from pole on 5 occasions, so it is a pretty handy spot, and the Allan Simonsen Pole Award will go the way of Absolute Racing. We should mention it's the first time we've seen that team here as well. Chad, you've got the pole man.
What a special moment that was. We'll get Matteo Braga from Pirelli in with this extremely prestigious trophy. This is the Allan Simonsen Pole Position Trophy, which is handed out to the pole man here today, Matt Campbell. It's another special day here at the mountain. You have earned that, mate. Congratulations on an amazing lap.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, put everything online. You know, I was really pushing hard, missed a few apexes, but overall there was nothing left on the table. I tried absolutely everything I could, and in the end, obviously getting pole. But you know, fantastic result. First time here in a new generation of car, and you know, great starting position for tomorrow. So extremely excited, and you know, this is one I've wanted for a long time, and had many attempts at a top 10, and this time just putting it all together, which is fantastic.
How do you harness that pressure in a scenario like that, where you've got the weight of the Porsche factory and the world watching in these conditions to do what you just did?
I mean, luckily, you know, we did a similar lap time in qualifying this afternoon, and you know, I really knew what I needed to do going into this session, but in saying that, you know, the conditions were changing in the top 10, and you know, it was a little bit of an unknown. And obviously watching everyone else, you know, you're getting more and more nervous as time goes on. But in the end, obviously we got the job done, and you know, perfect starting position in the dark tomorrow.
Patrick, you've been part of the Porsche family for a very long time. How is Matt fitting in as a Porsche factory driver? Clearly getting the results.
I mean, he fit perfectly, and to be honest, I mean, it's the first time for me here, so I discovered the track, and he's a man on this track. I mean, he's unbelievable. I can see the data, the videos, and believe me, this guy is flying here. So, really proud to be on his car, and yeah, I will try to get a good start tomorrow.
Does that mean that you are the man starting?
Yeah, they give me this honor, so it will be first start here. During the night and from pole, so I'm used to big challenge, so it will be fun tomorrow.
Well done, Patrick. Well done, Mathieu, and well done, Matt Campbell. You are the pole man. Congratulations.
There's some happy Porsche drivers from Absolute Racing. What a terrific top 10 shootout that was, with thanks to Pirelli. Well, this was a super lap from JP de Oliveira, and they got a massive amount of ground gain, so they'll start from the second row of the grid. He held the top spot for a long time. Lawrence Vanthoor threw the lot at it too, and the Maguires. Porsche cannot help but feel like this is definitely a contender tomorrow. They've built up to it all weekend. A really solid couple of practice sessions and a great qualifying performance from the Belgian, who knows how to do it. And then JP, as always, Raffaele turned it on.
He just knows what to do around this place, and the Mercedes is a great car to have. I think it could be very, very strong across the 12 hours. 3 of them made it into the shootout. But what about the McLaren? We're talking about the svelte nature, how slippery that shape is for the 720S, and it really excelled down Conrod Straight, easily the fastest through the speed trap as they turn into the chase.
And then Matt Campbell, we saw the lap on board. Magic first sector, pulled an enormous amount of time out of the middle. Gave away a little bit towards the end, but in the end it didn't matter, like it was in qualifying. He was up to the good of 0.2 of a second over the entire field. And for the first time at Mount Panorama, they won for the first time last year. Porsche grabbed pole position, the Allan Simonsen pole award for the first time. And they're the 6th different brand to grab pole at Mount Panorama in the 6 years just past. It's a huge lap, it's a huge result for a brand with a rich history in global endurance racing. And Matt Campbell will start on pole position tomorrow morning with his teammates Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet. So many different brands in there. McLaren on the front row, I think that's a great result. Mercedes, AMG and Nissan next, and another Porsche. Maro Engels in the mix, and the man who was so good last year, Jake Dennis, got the ARM Motorsport Aston Martin into the 10. That car will start 10th tomorrow.
Well, John Heinhoff is alongside me. Matt Campbell, what a stunning performance, carrying on from last year. The kid just loves the place and flying the Aussie flag too.
It just gets better and better, doesn't he? You know, outside of Australia, he wasn't very well known until the last year or 18 months, and he's taken what he built here last year with that stunning performance onto the international stage. Now a full Porsche factory driver. He's just building a fantastic career. He's got a long time ahead of him and a lot more trophies in this sport to come.
So when we come to tomorrow, he would be your tip then, this combination?
You've got to say that they look pretty good, don't they? And Porsche are underlining their win from last year with how many cars they brought this year. But being fast in qualifying doesn't always mean being quick in the race. Getting down the mountain's important. And Matty was good, but he wasn't the quickest. That was the McLaren. So this bodes really well for the race tomorrow.
After the chaos of today, what do you expect when we start in the dark here tomorrow morning?
Well, let's hope it's not the same kind of chaos. What it will be is the most extraordinary, beautiful and bonkers 45 minutes of racing anywhere in the world. And I say that in the best possible way. It's unmissable motorsport. Nowhere else does it like Mount Panorama.
And we have weather on the way too. Thunderstorms are expected. Can you believe it?
Don't even add that in. That just adds another level of excitement and anticipation. The mountain, well, the mountain just keeps getting better, and so does this race.
Absolutely. 5:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You'll see all the action right here on Fox Sports. We can't wait. As we said, we'll start in the dark and we'll be here throughout the day. The whole 12 hours of racing will be ad break free on Fox Sports. John, thanks for your time. We can't wait to see you again in the morning.
Can't wait.
All right, that's it from us here at the mountain for today. Tomorrow it is the 2020 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour. You'll see it all on Fox Sports.